Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Menahot Daf Yomi Daf Kuf Bet Amud Aleph, 102a, said the Gemara, right, we were talking about that there was Pigel B'Shchita. So he says, Aval Pigel B'Zrika Mai, but if right now, according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, there was done the Pigul by the time of the Zrika of the Dam, Hachanami, so to here, it's going to be Metamet Tumat Ochlin. Adetani Pigel B'Mincha Metamet Tumat Ochlin, Liflo B'Dida, when we just saw Memed V'Munim, the Pigel B'Shchita, Aval in Pigel B'Zrika, Metamet Tumat Ochlin. So he says like this. So answers the Gemara, Pigel b'mincha itztichele. Right? It's Pigel b'mincha, that's what it was needed. Why? Da'afak of the Pigel b'kmitza, the komets b'mincha k'shchita dami. Because the komets by the mincha is going to be like the shchita. Da'afilu hachi, that still it's going to be metamet tumat ochlin, hoil v'ayta la shat kosher mi'ikaro. Because it had a shat kosher from the beginning. Fine. Amar Ravashi. Yeah, Ravashi says, Amnita lishmata kamed Rav Nachman. We said this in front of Rav Nachman. But filu tema, and I added, he said, even if you're going to tell me lan mamash, that it was lan before the zrika mamash, fafilu tema de pikel, and if you did the pigul during the time of the zrika, tibae pari kamar, that even if you wanted to say that you could come and you could redeem it, ibae zari klom linan, but we do not say that if you're going to come and sprinkle it, right? Sheilu ratzaya yochol izrok adadam. That we don't say, okay? Which means that we only say the concept that if he wanted to, he could have redeemed it. Right, to say that it's considered like ochel, to be mitamet tumat ochlin. But we're not going to say that if he wanted to sprinkle it, that we don't say. So maybe we're going to ask the following question. Klal amar Rabbi Yoshua, says Rabbi Yoshua, a general rule, kol shaita la shat heter lekohanim, if it had a shat heter for the kohanim, em mualim ba. There's no mi'ilah. Right? V'chol shelo haita la shat heter lekohanim, and if it didn't have a shat heter for the kohanim, mualim ba, there is a problem of mi'ilah. What was it that it has a heshat heter for the kohanim? Shelana, v'shenitmet, v'sheyatza. If it was lana, right, which means again it was leftovers during the night, nitmet became tameh, or it came outside of the azara. And what does it mean that it doesn't have the shat heter for the kohanim? Shenishchata chutz b'zana chutz b'mkuma. If it was done the shchita outside of the proper time or outside the proper place, v'shekiblu pusulin, or somebody that was pasul accepted the blood, v'zarku dama, right, and they actually sprinkled the blood. We did learn though the reisha shelana v'shlitzia. My level, we're not talking about lana mamash. And here also the bayav zariku. You could have said that you could have sprinkled the blood, and we learned and mualin. What does that mean, right? Because we're saying that it did have a shatat telekonim. So the reason why is because that it was omed li zarek, meaning it was fitting to sprinkle the blood. So ki'ilu we're looking at it as if it was. That's not like Ravashi. So he says no. It says reuya latzet v'reuya letameh. It was only going back on the other two, which is basically it's fitting to go outside of the Bet HaMikdash or outside of the Azara, or fitting to come tameh, but not lizarek. Aval lina mamash, but if it's going to be mamash lina, what's halacha? Hachanami de moalin. This is going to be a problem of mila. Hi, why? Because kol she'ayta la shat heter lekohanim, because there was a shat heter for the kohanim. V'chol shelo hayta la shat heter lekohanim, kol sheyesh la shat heter lekohanim moalim ba. There is going to be milah, which means that if it was already fitting for the kohen, there's already a problem. You understand? That means if from the beginning it was done wrong, it's not fitting for the kohen. If they do the shchita, and at the time of the shchita they already messed up, so it's not fitting for the kohen. It's so pasuk. There's nothing what to do. Yeah, that's it. You're not allowed to do nothing. But if it was already permitted to eat it, and then only afterwards something happened or whatever it is, that's something else, because it did have a shatatet. So he says, Elam Ravashi, brother Ravashi says, Mila tuma karamit. Yeah, what does that mean? You are asking for Mila to tuma? Me'ila mishum kidusha velav kidushai. Says because of kidusha. Here there's no kidusha. Levatar de pakala kidusha, because it already went out for the kidusha. But my hadra rav chale. So what are you going to put the kidusha on it then? Basically, what he's trying to say is that how do you compare both cases of tum'ah and mi'ila? He says when we're talking about mi'ila, it has nothing to do with kedusha. So therefore, he says, once the kedusha already left it, so how do you put it back on? Right? Tum'ah is because of eating it. Velavucha, so it's not food anymore. Right, exactly. So therefore, you could sprinkle it; it's considered food. So mitamet tumat ochlin. If you can't sprinkle it, so then it's not considered food. So it's not going to be mitamet tumat ochlin. Meaning, if you cannot sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, it's not considered food. If it's not considered food, so it's not going to be mitamet tumat ochlin. Food is mitamet tumat ochlin. This is not ochel. It's nothing. You can't do anything with it. So Meitli, we're going to ask the following question. Hamevi Hasham Talui v'nodal shelo chata. What does a person brings an Hasham Talui? You know what an Hasham Talui is? Hasham Talui is a guilt offering that's depending. That's why it says Talui. It's depending. You don't know if you did the Avirah or not. It's Talui. Ani lo yodea. If you for sure did it, it's called an Hasham Vadai. If you don't know, Hasham Talui. So I don't know. All of a sudden, he brings the Hasham Talui, and all of a sudden he finds out that he didn't do the Avirah. He found out there was witnesses, whatever. They said, no, you didn't do the Avirah. Right? So what happens? Imad Shalom, if it was until before the Shchita, Yatsa, right, Yetzeh, sorry, V'yir'eh ba'eder. Take it out and let it graze. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Hachamim omrim, Chachamim come and they say, Kuv bet amubet, Yir'eh ad shistayev. Let it graze until it's going to get a mum. V'yimacher, sell it, v'yiplu damav v'nedava. And then put the money for a nedava, for a present. Rabbi Eliezer says, Yikrov. No, Yakriv it. Bring it. Sacrifice it. If it's already, it's going for another sin. Don't worry about it. Maybe. There's another one. Yeah? There's going to be another one. Yeah? There's always that. Yeah, there's always one. No, but a Tudah is a Thanksgiving offering. It's two completely different things. You can't. You do an Edava. An Edava is just a present. A present you could do. And a present is a Shlamim. Right? Or a Nola. Usually it's an Olah or a Shlamim, whatever it is. You can bring either, right? I'm saying, but here we're talking about you can't bring an Hasham Vadai or an Hasham Talui or a Chatat as a present. You remember? No. That was a slap in the face. So he says. So again, you got three different opinions. One opinion, you bring it, because if you're not bringing it on this sin, you're going to bring it for another sin. Another one, you just graze and then you bring it as a present. Okay, Mishenishchat v'nodalo. But what happens if you already did the shchita and then you found out? Now, nodalo adam yishafech, spill the blood on the floor. Habasari saref, burn the meat. Nizrak adam, but if it was already after the zrikat adam, habasari yachel, eat it. Rabbi Yosef omer afilu adam bakos, even if it's going to be in the cup, yizarek, sprinkle it on the mizbeach, habasari yachel, and you could eat it. The Amar Rava, so Rava says, Rabbi Yosef, b'shitat Rabbi Shimon Amar. Rabbi Yosef is going in the shitat of Rabbi Shimon. The Amar that he says, Kol ha'omel yizrok kezaruk dami. Anything which is fitting to be sprinkled is like sprinkled already. So Midi Utaima says the Gemara, it's any reason. Amri Marava, they said the Marava, Mishmed Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, the name of Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina. Hainu Tamad Rabbi Yosef, there is a reason we said the Ksava that he holds. Kele Sharet Mekachin et Psulim. The Kele Sharet is going to be Mekadesh the Psulim. Velechatchila likarev. Lechatchila should be brought to the Mizbeach. Okay? So Amar le Ravashi, le Rav Kahana, says Ravashi to Rav Kahana, Mida Amar Rabbi Shimon, says that since he's talking about Rabbi Shimon, Kol ha'omel yizrok kezaruk dami, that anything which is going to be fitting to be sprinkled is going to be like kilu, it's already sprinkled. Kol ha'omel yisrof nami, anything which is fitting to be sort of saruf nami, notaru para amai, metamet u'matochlin. So why is it that notar and para is going to be metamet u'matochlin? Afra be'almaninu. It's like afar. What do you mean afar? It's nothing. So he says, Amalei, he says, Chibata Kodesh Mechshartan. He says it's like it's ki'ilu, that it's going to be Mekabel Tumah, even though it's not considered Ochel. Right? So it's Chiba. It's something of preciousness to show, to cherish it. So he says, Amalei Ravina Ravashi, Nehid Mahanya Lechibata Kodesh Lifsula de Gufe. He says maybe it's only going to become to become to poselet itself. So he says, Likru Tameh Nami Limim Nebe Rishon and Sheni. Or you could call it Tameh to do with a Rishon and a Sheni. Yeah, mimahanyale. Is that going to help? Tivshot debayre shakish, right? He says, look what Shakish said. Tzarid shel menachot. When you have kemach yavesh of a mincha, that it wasn't kneaded properly with the mincha, right? So he says, monim bo rishon v'sheni. It's going to become a rishon and it's going to become a sheni. It's going to become metameh. Or not. So he says, ki mibayre shakish doraita. Ki kamrim. What we're talking about is going to be the rabbanan. Remember that to do with any types of food, you always have a Rishon L'Tumah and a Sheni L'Tumah. Rishon L'Tumah is the first thing that you touch, the first receiver. The Sheni is afterwards, right? So usually by Sheni, it could happen by food, right? By foods, it could happen by Sheni. And then you have, the Truma, and then you have Kodesh. The Kodesh could become even a Revi, and the Truma could become even a Shlishi, right? You continue going in Truma V'Tara. So therefore, that's what we're talking about over here. Okay? Mishnah Kuvbet Amubet. Whenever the person comes and he says, I'm going to bring a machvat. Machvat is one of the menachot, remember. The machvat. Yes, right? So he says, Vevi b'marcheshet. So he brought a marcheshet. Or he said that he's going to bring a marcheshet and he brought a machvat. Masha avi avi, whatever he brought, Videi chova lo yetza. But he wasn't Yitzei chova. He wasn't Yitzei chova. Yeah. Which one? Yes, exactly. Specified. Exactly. Right? If he says, solid zo lavi b'machvat, lavi b'marcheshet, or marcheshet lavi b'machvat, harez psula, it's pasul. Meaning, because when he just said that he's going to bring, no, because when he said this is going to be there, that's a problem. Because that's a, if he just said, I'm going to bring, and then he brought something else, no problem. But you still have to bring the other one that you said. Okay? Another thing which is very similar. Imagine a person says, I'm going to bring two esronot of solet in order to bring one kili. Revi shne kilim. We brought in two kilim. Right? Or bishne kilim. Revi b'kli echad. You've got two kilim and you brought in one kili. Right? Whatever you brought. You're not Yitzchak Chova. But if he says, right? If he says, elu, this is b'kli echad, and then he brought in two kelim, or two kelim and then he brought in one, it's going to be pasul. The exact same thing. Because again, since he said this, the second that you're saying elu, now that's it. Now it's if you just said stam, I'm going to bring two esronim. So fine. But you said in one kli, you brought in two. So whatever you brought, bring it again in two kelim. Or the other way around, two kelim, you brought in one. Whatever you brought, bring it in the other one kelim. When you say elu, shne esronot elu, this has to be done the proper way. If you're not going to change it, it's going to be pasul. Third case also, I'm going to bring two esronot to bring in one keli, vevi b'shne kelim. Okay, sorry. It's the exact same case until now. No, because I'm looking at it, I'm saying, yeah, we just said that. Well, what are you saying? The difference is what they're going to answer. Amrulo, they told him, b'kli echad nadarta. Yeah, you said one keli, right? V'krivam b'shne kelim. If he still didn't care and he brought in two kelim, here it's pasul. Right? He went and he brought a b'kli echad ksherim. Right? They told him, what are you talking about? You did that. And now he still brought it. Now it's going to be ksherim. Yeah? Why is it going to be kesherim in this case now? Because he brought it. Because here he did bring it in the two kelim. Meaning in the second case, he actually listened to them. In the first case, he didn't listen to them. So in the first, one more time. We were still in the Reisha where he just said, I have to bring. He didn't say this. If he says this, it's a problem. Because if he says this and then he changes it, it's pasul. He just said, I have to bring two esronim in one keli. They come and they tell him, he brings it now in two kelim. They tell him, what are you doing? You said one keli. Doesn't care. He brought in two kelim. Now it's pasul. Beforehand, we only said pasul when he says this, it becomes pasul. Before we said, you brought it, whatever you brought, bring another one. Because you weren't Yitzchak Chova. That's what you said before. But if they correct you, they tell you, but you said this. I don't care. You don't care, now it's pasul. But what happens if they told him that you said it was two kelim, and then he actually listened to them? And he did two kelim. So then it's going to be kosher. Okay? So you're going to put it in one keli, just like two menachot that we got mixed up. So says the Gemara, we need all the cases in the Mishnah. Why do I need all the cases? If I only had the first case, right, which is basically the difference between a machvat and marcheshet, he said machvat, then he brought a marcheshet. But here, it was both the same. It was just kli echad or shne kelim, but it's the same thing. Both of them are machvat, or both of them are marcheshet. So I would say he's going to be Yitzchak Chova also. So I would say no. If it was only the second case, which is basically the same machvat or same marcheshet, just the difference in the kelim, mishum de kapalig lehu, but you're dividing it. Aval hatam, but over there you didn't divide anything. So I would say that it's going to be okay. Tzricha, that's why you need both cases. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Meshavi avi, if you didn't do it, what do we say in the Mishnah? Whatever you brought, but you weren't Yitzchak Chova. Rabbi Shimon says you were Yitzchak Chova. Okay, that's his shita. Okay? Saying it's always different. Always different than... Okay, fine. Next, the Mishnah. You said if you say zo has to be brought as a machvat, so then it's pasul. So he says, Vatanya lo kedushi lo kitshum kli sharet. He says, 1 second, but I thought you told me that it doesn't become holy in a kli sharet. So Abaye says, lo kitshum li karev. It's not going to be holy to be brought. Aval kitshum li pasel, but it's going to be holy to become brought. So Abaye says, Loshan, what are we dealing with? He says, Ela shekivan, kuv gimel amud aleph on the top. Ela shekivan b'shat neder. Only if you fixed it during the time of the neder. Aber b'shat hafrasha, but if it's going to be during the time of the separation, no. But it says kasher nedarta v'lo kasher ifrashta. Only like you made the neder, not like you separated it. V'itmarnami was also stated Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yacha bar Chanina, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ushanu ela shekavan b'shat neder. B'shat hafrasha lo, but not during the time of hafrasha. But it says kasher nadarta v'lo kasher ifrashta.